Hello, my name is Charles, and in today's video, we're going to begin the series of how to code. We're going to start with Java, which is a high-level programming language, and we're going to learn the basics of coding. We're going to go through how to code. This is going to be an amazing series. I'm stoked. So a couple definitions just right off the bat. IDE stands for Individual Development Environment. You see this random little thing here? This main.java and this file and this console here, right? All this stuff. This is what's called an individual development environment. This is like your coding cubicle. This is where you're gonna code. Next is the syntax, is like the actual code or instructions that you type in the computer. So like this stuff right here, all those blue letters, that is syntax. Data types, let's imagine your coding project like a Lego car. With your Lego car, there are different sizes of, Lego blocks, and there are different colors, and that's like different memory amounts and different data types. So the basic ones are what they call primitive, are like char, which is like a character, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, like here. Then you have the integer, which is like, whole numbers, 10, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all those kind of numbers. Boolean, which are like true or false. It either is this or is not this. String, like imagine strings is like text messages. Hey, what's up? How's it going? Whatever you type in. And then doubles are like, they take up more memory than an integer, and they're like decimal numbers, like 6.7, 6.8. If you're given like change, $10.50. And then lastly, we got some, let's say you tell a computer to do something. If this condition is true. Computers use what's called like if-else logic. And so they'll have like branching. And basically with computers, when you tell the computer to do something, or you have a command for the computer, it'll run through if statements where if certain conditions are met and if certain things are done, or then it will do something else. And, if those conditions are not met, then it'll do something different. And so in today's video, we're going to make a basic calculator to kind of show you guys the basics and teach you step by step. So, all right, with computers, you can't tell a human being, go make a sandwich. You can't tell a human being what to do, but you can tell computers what to do. So we're going to teach you the basics of how to tell your computer what to do. So we're going to make a basic calculator. That's today's project. So like we said with the data types and the syntax, to make an integer, you just do int x equals 5. And this is basically saying this integer, or this, whatever I'm going to assign this to, is an integer. And then the name of the integer is going to be x. And we're going to set it equal to 5. And in Java, you just got to end those assignments with a semicolon. So let's say we do integer x and integer y equals 10. And then we do system.out.print, x plus y. And so now when we run this, right, if we were to run this thing, x system, so 5 plus 10 is 15. And we're going to be like, okay, it gives us 15. Neato mosquito. Okay? But that's not really how a calculator works, right? Because a calculator, you can enter what the values are. And this is what we call hard-coded. Hard-coded. And when something is hard-coded, it means the values are preset. And we don't want the values to be preset. We want people to be able to enter the values they want for their calculator. So this little handy-dandy thing, import java.util.scanner, it's essentially a big class that has functions, and functions are basically like to-dos for your computer. It is basically like you can always call it to do something. And so if we want to be able to read in input, which is basically like ask the user, hey, what numbers do you want to multiply, add, subtract, divide, right? then we need to be able to read in input. So for this basic calculator, what we're going to want to do is add, subtract, multiply, and divide. And so we need to be able to read in input from the user. So how do we do that? First, we got to create, and you won't know this at first, or like why this all works at first, but I will teach you as we go along in this series. But this is just how you're going to be able to read in input. You use scanner, you create a scanner object. And that scanner object has functions. And the functions allow you to do things like read in inputs, like scan the input from the user. So first thing we're going to do is this is how you print things. You do system out print line, system.out.println, and you type in a string. So we'll ask first, enter the first number. So for this calculator, we're going to have them enter 2 numbers. And the first number, we're going to set that number. And now, if I ask you guys, would you want this to be an integer? And I know it's a lot, right? This is like, whoa, 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 we're going too fast. So let me slow it down a little bit. Scanner is basically this thing, this object, and I'll teach you what that means later, this thing that allows you to read in input. Okay, so now we have that. We'll just copy paste that code, no problem. Now this next line, what is this doing? This is printing out, this is how you print out to the user, a statement such as enter the first number. So this is the system. Now where is it going? It's going out into the console and it's printing the line. So printing ln, the line, and ln will make a new line below it and it'll be enter the first number. Okay, so now we're asking the user to enter the first number. Now what we did before, what data type would we want for the number they enter? Because if we look above for the data types, right, we have integer. Would we want them to be able to just do whole numbers, or would we want them to also be able to do decimals? And this is where we think a little bit, well, if I was using a calculator, I would want to be able to enter anything, like not just 10, not just 20, but 10.2 or any number I wanted. And so that means we do double x, right? We're just going to set, we can choose any variable name for what we want. We can even name this first number equals, so we're assigning it to scanner.next double. So the next double that they type in is going to be set to this variable first number. Then we ask them for the second one. Okay, we're asking them for the second number. Easy peasy. Enter the second number. Okay, and so we set that up, right? It's double second number equals scanner.next double. Okay, easy peasy. So now what our code does is it prints out, a thing that says enter the first number. It takes in that first number and it sets it to one of those basic data types we talked about, a double, which is basically just a decimal or just some number. So now we know the type of Lego block or data will be a number. It'll be called first number and it'll be based on what the user enters, which is the next double they enter. And then same with the second one. And then now we're like, okay, well now we need to do the basic math. Now we need to do basic math. So if we run this so far, what we're going to get is enter the first number. Okay, we'll do 10. Enter the second number, 20. But now it doesn't do anything. We're just entering numbers. Okay, so now we need to do basic math. Here I talked about if-else logic, right? So, okay, how do we do that? What's the syntax, aka the actual code or what you write for the computer to do it? Because what if, let's say, they want to add? How do we know they want to add? How do we know the user wants to add? How do we know the user wants to multiply? This is where we'll do the basic math and check and the if statement. So we're going to say, what would you like to do? And we're going to say add, subtract, multiply, or divide. So now it's like, okay, we want to ask them what they want to do. And then we want to do, so now if we're going to ask them and they're going to type in either add, subtract, multiply, or divide, what are those? Those are strung together characters. So that's a string, and string will say response equals scanner.next line, or we can even do scanner.next. And this is just the way to read in a string in Java. So now we have an if state. Now we need to make an if statement. So how do we know, right? If they decide to add, what do we do? Well, if they decide to add, so if the response we should do is equals add, then what do we do? So if the response, basically this is saying is, it's going to read in response. So it's going to print out, what would you like to do? It's going to read in a response from the user, and it's going to assign it to so it's going to be a string, and the response is going to be whatever the next thing they type in. And if the next thing they type in is add, then it's going to add the two numbers, just like a calculator would. And it's going to print it out. So we're going to do system.out.println, and we're going to do x plus y. Or we're going to do first number plus second number. Okay. Now how do we write it? And anytime you write an if statement, the condition, which is this, right? If the response is equal to add, you got to put it in these curly braces. So these curly braces, right? The first condition, if response equals, and then what does the response have to equal? Add, and if it is equal to add, so if they type in ADD with a capital A, then it's going to do the first number plus the second number. Then, what if they don't type that in? Well, else, if, right? Let's say they don't type that in, and they do response.equals, subtract. They want to subtract. Then we do this, and we do first number minus second number. And if they want to, divide, then we do the same thing, or multiply. Then for multiplication, it's just this. It's the asterisk in Java. So if they type in multiplication, then we do that. And lastly, if they type in division, then we do this. That's division in Java. This is division. This is multiplication in Java. This is subtraction. And this is addition in Java. And then now what if, right, we ask them, what would you like to do? And we tell them you can either add, subtract, multiply, or divide. And they don't type in any of those things. Then we have the else statement. So it's not any of those things, right? If it is add, if it is subtract, if it is multiply, then it's going to do all those things. But if it's not any of those things, then we just tell them, please run again. So we just tell them, you know what, you didn't type in any of the things, so just run it again. So what do we think this, so now we have a basic calculator. And if we hit run, so we're going to enter the first number, which is 10, enter the second number, 20. What would you like to do? I'd like to add. Boom, it gives us 30. Easy peasy. Look at how awesome that is. Now we have a basic calculator. And so to kind of explain, right, just some basic things. We used if statements, right? If, the response or what they typed in is equals. The reason we did dot equals is because that dot equals in Java compares strings. So that's how you compare strings in Java. The if statements always have to be in braces. So in those curly braces, that's where the actual code for what happens if that condition is met has to be. And then, the print line is how you print something to the screen. These are data types. So we set, the first number equal to basically a double, which refers to, like we said, any number, including decimals. So if we were to figure out basically line by line, and this is just for a review for anyone who's watching near the end and is like, okay, how does all this work? And it was a bit confused. Double is essentially any number including decimal. And so what this is doing, it is saying any number is now equal, or I'm assigning it, is equal or assigned to the variable first number, and that is based on, and that number will be based on the next double or number they input. And that's essentially how this works. You read in some numbers, you check if it's those numbers, and then you do the following thing. So I hope this, guys, teaches you the basics. This is, we're doing this in an IDE. We're doing this in a Java file. The syntax is the actual code. So scanner, system.outprint, double, these are syntax. You learned about data types in this video, which are the Lego blocks of coding, char, integer, Boolean, strings. And then you learned about if-else logic, which is if statements, else if, what if it's the other condition, and finally, what if it's none of those conditions. And we made a basic calculator. So this is a little project that you guys now have, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. My name is Charles, and until next time, we're learning how to code. This is How to Code, Episode 1.